Hello and welcome to Jank It Up Fuzzball, episode 33. I'm your host, Brian. No AKA today. I don't even know what it would be, to be honest. This episode is a couple of weeks coming. Greg is not going to join us. He will be back, I promise. I enjoy having Greg on, and we'll talk about some Destiny because he makes special stuff. It's good stuff, and it's always fun talking with Greg. But today it's just me. It's just me. And in a little bit, we're going to talk about an idea I had about exploring a single character in three different builds, like basically building that character with a red partner, a yellow partner, and a blue partner. So I considered it Destiny Neapolitan. And so to kick things off, I'm going to talk about Neapolitan style Savage Press. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I want you to indulge me. I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on in terms of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and just working through some thoughts. And you didn't tune in for this, but I have a platform. And so the numbers are down thanks to COVID. But I'm going to go ahead and just kind of talk about some things. And you should pull up a beer. I have a beer right here. You should pull up a beer and listen for a bit if you'd like, or you can skip ahead. That's fine too. The lead is that I won't be going to Worlds if Worlds happens this year. I probably wouldn't be going to Worlds even if they did happen because I don't know if I want to get on an airplane, to be honest. But on June 1st, I emailed in and I asked Organized Play for a refund. And about 2 weeks later, without any kind of fanfare or really an explanation, uh, I got that refund. And part of the reason I asked is because, you know, things got crazy. George Floyd was murdered by a police officer on May 25th, and there were protests in Minneapolis, and that quickly spread around the country. And, Greg and I had plans to record the week of, I think, June 1st. We were going to record that Tuesday. And I'm sure with many of you, it just didn't seem, lots of things got kind of put in their place in terms of priority, in terms of importance. Uh, and it was a really impactful week. So obviously, we didn't record. Uh, and, this feels like a movement. And I am very, very Caucasian. For those that met me, I'm a white guy. I don't have a lot of black friends in my circle. I, and I don't know what I can do. I want to be an ally, and I like to think of myself as an empathetic person. And so seeing everything that was happening in Minneapolis, seeing all of that, what was going on, and the uncertainty of worlds, I was making donations. Sent some money to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And then on a whim, I emailed Organized Play. And I'm going to read that out to you. And it was a simple email. I simply said, "Hello. I hope this email finds you safe and healthy. I'd like to know if there's any concrete plans for rescheduling the Destiny Worlds event from May, excuse me. If not, I'd like an immediate refund of my $54.50 so that I can instead donate it to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. While I know COVID has hit many businesses hard in the pocketbooks, I feel my entry fee could have a much more positive and immediate effect going to individuals in need via the MFF. Thank you and stay safe." And I did not get a reply, as you can imagine. I did not. But 2 weeks later, lo and behold, I got an email saying that I was getting back $54.50. Now, I didn't even remember who it was from. Like, there was no explanation. There was nothing. So I had to go through my kind of budgeting software and figure out what did I buy for $54.50. And it was the Destiny Worlds ticket. And so they did it. So thank you, FFG. I know they're probably hurting financially thanks to COVID. But I got that money back. I immediately donated it to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. And I just want to get that out there. If for any reason you have a world's ticket and you want or you need that $54.50 back, it can be done. When I first got the email, I asked some people in Discord, I'm like, did FFG just start issuing refunds? They're like, no. So I can only assume it's because of my email. And yeah, so what this means in terms of destiny is that, yeah, it looks like I'm not going to Worlds, even if there is a Worlds. I no longer have a ticket. I have a lot of coasters to give out. But I was happy that my money went to better use. I was happy about that. I grew up in Alabama, Muscle Shoals, until I was 6 years old. So from like 1975 to 80 or 81. And I don't remember, but I've been told that there were KKK parades in downtown Muscle Shoals in the late 70s. And I know when my parents sold their house and moved to Houston or Pasadena, which is on the outskirts of Houston, that was in 1980. And African American family bought the house. And sometime in the next year or so, there was a cross burned in what used to be my front yard. That was 1980. That's 40 years ago. And maybe that's a lifetime for many of you, but that doesn't seem that long ago. And it's just tough. I just, it's a horrible thing, but Black Lives Matter. And I just want to say that from a very white content creator. Black Lives Matter. And I hope that I know, having been to Worlds, that the minority of people that play these games are people of color. So the majority of people look a lot more like me than they look different than me. And I hope that you recognize that this is a moment. This is a moment that positive change can happen. It is. Now, I'm saying all this, and if you're still listening, you may agree or disagree with what I'm saying, and we can agree to disagree. But I think, I don't think people should be treated differently thanks to the color of their skin. I don't think people should be treated differently thanks to their gender. I tell my students all the time I'm a feminist because I have a daughter and I want her to have every possible opportunity that my son gets. And I know I'm a white male, right? So I won the lottery in terms of being a white male. And I believe there is a thing as privilege, and I know people will dispute that. Most of the people that dispute that are probably going to be white. And I know that. I know I went to Texas A&M University. I got 2 degrees there, so I spent a lot of time there. And there's a statue of Sullivan Ross. And it's very important. He like kind of resurrected A&M in the late 1800s. It was not doing well. And he came in and made it a much more impactful school. And so in 1917, they erected the statue. But Sul Ross was also a general in the Confederate Army, and he fought in 153 battles. And so it's hard. It's hard to wrap your head around, black students at Texas A&M walking by the statue of a man that represents the Confederate Army. So I signed a petition to have the statue removed because I think that's the right thing to do. Texas A&M is a great institution, but it doesn't need to publicly display a Confederate general because that seems like that's not very inclusive of others. And I think the statue needs to go somewhere else. What hurts my heart is that I have 2 good friends, the oldest friends I have. I've known them for 40 years. And I believe they feel, and I know one of them signed the opposite petition, that the statue should stay. And maybe you agree with that, and that's fine. You have your opinion, and I have mine. But it hurts my heart, genuinely, to think that. And so I'm recording this on a Friday. On Monday, I'm having a Zoom meeting with these two friends, and we're gonna talk through our differences and figure out what's what, and we'll see how it goes. It's gonna be a difficult conversation. I'm an emotional guy, you know. I don't know, but I hope you have some difficult conversations with family, with your coworkers, friends. I think it's important. Now is an important time to have these conversations. I hope my listeners are gaining perspective. I hope they're being very reflective of their own lives and of their own feelings towards other people, people that are different than them. I hope that you do things to combat racism and not just say, I'm not racist, but actually do things to combat racism. And yeah, it ties into destiny because it's because of that, because of the visceral reaction. I wanted to help. I wanted to do something. I wanted to contribute to those in need. And, FFG and destiny being in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis being where this movement started. I asked for my ticket back, and they gave it to me. I don't know why they gave it to me, but they gave it to me. And I'm happy to take that $54.50 and give it to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. If you really want your money back, then you can probably get it back as well. All right, I'm up here just spitting into the mic, and I do want to talk some Destiny, but what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to turn the mic off. I'm going to finish my beer. I'm going to play some music really loud. Then I'll come back on and we'll talk all about Sauvage Press. I hope you're still listening. Thank you if you did listen. Even if you didn't agree with anything I said, I do appreciate you listening. And we'll be right back. Ooh la la, are we weird? Ooh la la, are we weird? Ooh la la, are we weird? Ooh la la. DJ All right, I am back and ready to talk some Star Wars Destiny. So Sauvage Press, for those that don't know, is Maul's brother, and he is featured in the Clone Wars series. So there's a great arc between him and his brother, and I think he's just a really interesting character. Less so in the show; he's fine, but in Destiny, I think he is such an interesting blue aggro character. So if you haven't played with Sauvage, he is Sauvage Opress, the Reckless Warrior. He is a villain. He is blue. He is a character Night Brother. His points are 11, 14, and his health is 13. So that's beefy, right? His die sides are 1 melee, 3 melee for $1, plus 2 melee, 1 discard, and a blank. But most interesting, he has an ability which says you must activate this character as your first action each round if able, unless you spot Maul. So, if you paired him with anyone else besides Maul, he has to activate as your first action of each round. So he has to get in the pool, right? But I love thematically, Maul, his brother, is able to control him a little bit better. So that's the character. I've played him with Maul before. I've played him with Snoke. I've played him with various things. But I thought it was fun to revisit him with some CM cards, covert mission cards. And also, I had him paired with a red character, I'll talk about in a little bit. But then I thought, how fun would it be to visit a blue character and also a yellow character, hence this idea of Destiny Neapolitan. And so I made some decks, and I kind of hinted at Greg. I said, Greg, I have the same character, a singular character. I have 3 different builds. Are you game? He said, yeah, let's do it. So he didn't know exactly what character it was going to be. Maybe he had some guesses, but he didn't. But he showed up. And when I say showed up, like to TTS, right? We're obviously still doing the social distancing thing, even though we live not far away. And I pulled out my yellow build of Sauvage Opress, and that featured. I'm really kind of excited by it, but it's Sauvage Opress and 2 Infest Nest Marauders. So it's a whole bunch of health because you have 13 through Sauvage, and you have 9 through each of the Marauder. So you're already looking at 31 health naturally. You also have, with each Marauder, you can bring a hero card into the deck. And so for that, I have 1 copy of Easy Pickings. And then I have 1 copy of Maz's Vault, just to get even more money. So I'm playing on Theed with that deck. Obviously, with neutral characters, you get the added benefit of Theed's ability to get an extra action, so that makes sense. And I was pretty excited by it, right? So Sauvage has to roll out first, but the good news is that the Marauders have that +2 side that doesn't cost anything, so that's nice. And then they have 2 other sides that are melee damage, but they do cost money, which is one of the reasons why I have 2 copies of Rendezvous, which allows you to resolve a yellow dice without or decreasing its cost by 1. I have 2 copies of Truce, 2 copies of Indifferent, which spot a neutral character, remove a die. But the only other 2 cards that I have 2 copies of is Conflicted. I love Conflicted. It's one of my favorite cards. It costs 1. It's a blue neutral. Reroll one of your blue character dice. Then, if that die just rolled damage, deal 2 damage to a character. Otherwise, give a character 2 shields. So Sauvage has 4 damage sides. So he's going to roll into the pool with my first action. And then oftentimes, I just take the least desirable side and I conflict that, hoping to get a damage side. If for any reason he does not land on one of the 4 damage sides, I get 2 shields, and that's not so bad either. The other card that I have 2 copies of is Bloodlust. So Bloodlust is a 2-cost diceless upgrade that allows you. It says after you resolve one of attached character's character dice showing damage, you may deal 1 damage to a character. So I think this makes a lot of sense with Sauvage because his dice are going in the pool. You don't have time in the round to put an upgrade on him before he activates. But once his dice are in the pool, if you have the money to spend, you can put that on there, and then you can get additional damage by resolving his die. I had lots of other upgrades. I had some other cool stuff in there. I had a Fear and Dead Man, Forsaken, Hidden Motive. I had Neiman Mastery, Dagger Mortis, Infest Nest, Electro Ripper. By the way, just a reminder, Greg and I play with cards that we actually own. So we don't play with cards we don't have. So in that sense, we have to own the cards. I bought from Game Shop of Destiny, I bought a rare commons and uncommons block from Covert Missions, so I don't own any of the legendaries as of right now, but I do own 2 copies of every other card. So that's good, and Greg and I agreed that we could quote-unquote share those. So if he wanted to use some Covert Missions cards, that's fine. I also have some Covert Mission cards to use. And one that I want to talk about that I've grown fond of very quickly is Recurring Nightmare. This is a Covert Missions downgrade. It's a villain downgrade. It's a curse. It costs 2, so it costs a lot. But you put this on your opponent's character, and the dice gets rolled into your pool when they activate. And this die reads 1 melee, 1 melee, 2 melee, 3 melee for $1, miss, miss. And it does say that this die can only be resolved against attached character. So that's another thing with Sauvage. He's in the pool first. If I don't have anything else going on, I could always place this curse on one of my opponents, in this case Greg's characters, and hopefully it does some work for me. And it did do some work for me. The problem I had with this night is Greg showed up with a really fun K2SO, Chopper, and Jedi Temple Guard deck that just slaughtered me the first game. I think I rolled Sauvage out. I think he may have had one stick, and it was like easy pickings, and it went away. And it was downhill from there. It was like the most discouraging opening night game I've played in a really long time because I was so hyped for this deck to do well, and I just got rolled. I don't feel like I killed a character. It was bad. After that butt kicking, I switched to another Sauvage deck, but I do want to say I came back in the 3rd match we played, and I brought this deck back, and I trounced K2SO, Chopper, and Temple Guard. I didn't lose character. So it just worked out, right? For whatever reason, he didn't get easy pickings, and I didn't roll where I was going to be victimized by that. And it worked out. So I was so happy that this deck won a game. Now, I did lose. It lost very, very badly. But, it's beefy. It's got a lot of health. And if Sauvage can keep his dice in the pool, good things can happen with Conflicteds and other things. So Great overall. I enjoyed this yellow version of Savage Opress, and I look forward to playing a variation of it in the future. So that was cool. Between that first and third match, though, I switched to my blue variant, and it should come as no surprise to some of you that I chose to go with Asajj Ventress. And there's a running joke because way back in the day, Brian from Golden Dice podcast made a joke. I don't know if it was on a podcast or if it was on Discord or whatever, but just Savage Asajj as a pairing. And so on a whim one day, creatively, I made up like a yard sign as if they were a campaign, a political campaign. So I made up a yard sign that says Savage Asajj 2020. It's all in red, white, and blue. And they thought that was cool. I gave it to them. They actually printed up some playmats, and they gave me one. And that's the one I took to Worlds, which and that's the one I have. I'm super proud of, and I'm super excited by it. And I printed some stickers of the design. So I have some stickers. I gave a lot of those out. But I have 5 stickers left. And it's Savage Asajj 2020. I mean, admit it, we could do worse, right, than Savage Asajj in this year's election. But if for any reason you're still listening to this podcast and you want a Savage Asajj 2020 sticker, let me know. And I will put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and send it your way, right? So I have 5 of them. So let's just say the first 5 people that reach out to me, you can do so at jankitupfuzzball@gmail.com or through Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. The first 5 requests I get, I will happily send you a Savage Asajj 2020 sticker. Brian from Golden Dice also took Savage Asajj to the Junk Pile Classic. Was that what it's called? I don't remember. But at Worlds, they played a really, really, really janky event, and he took Savage Asajj and did us all proud. Did really well with it. But I would not have similar luck. So my Savage Asajj build, I used Night Sister Lair as my battlefield, and I really focused on downgrades. I had 5 downgrades: 1 Chancellor's Edict, 1 Hex, 2 copies of Recurring Nightmare, because I love that card, and then 1 Wounded to sneak in some damage if I needed it. It's mono blue, so it needs help with money. I have 2 Merchant Freighters, and what else did I have for money? Not a whole lot, unfortunately, for money. The ideal situation is you get Night Sister's Lair, and you play Curses, and you get some money, and you get that for that. I have 2 Ancient Magics. I had 1 Bloodlust, so I went down on that. And I had 2 Conflicted, 2 Doubts, a Fear and Dead Man, Forsaken, 2 Hidden Motives, and then some various things. I had 2 Nature's Charm just because I needed cheap soft mitigation. So Nature's Charm, for those of you that are like, what is that? That's a gray event, features porgs. It says roll up to 2 dice, yours or an opponent's. So I could use it to obviously play some defense, and that would be great. So Savage Asajj, I was really excited about this. Now this is the new Asajj Ventress. She is a character. She's a bounty hunter. So a blue bounty hunter, 13, 16 are her points, and her health is 12. So she's also beefy. So just the 2 of them, you got 25 health to go with. After a character that has a downgrade on it takes damage from this die, you may discard a card from your hand to remove one of that character's character upgrade dice. I can't say I got to do that a lot, but it was okay. I feel like, and I don't recall because these were played a long time ago, but I feel like, and I was playing against K2SO, Chopper, and Temple Guard, I felt like I had a moment where I was feeling really, really good. And then all of a sudden, out of seemingly nowhere, Ventress died. and then it was just chipping away, and I lost. So I felt like I had momentum, and I was doing pretty well until I wasn't. And that usually is the way these Destiny games go with Greg. I feel like I have a chance, and then I don't. So that's okay. It lost. What are you going to do? I gave it a second chance. So after I'd lost 2 out of 3 against Greg's Chopper Droids is what he called it. But it's not the Chopper Droids. It's a little different. Greg brought out Kylo 2, Dooku 3. So Kylo Dooku. And I busted back out with Savage Asajj, and I lost again. I mean, Kylo against that. I remember kind of giving Greg a hard time. Like, really? I'm running like blue, and you're going to run Kylo into that. So it wasn't great for me because he could call blue, and then I think he hit a gray card once, but overall, it wasn't good. And Dooku's ability to discard cards was very, very useful, and I just got beat bad. So, unfortunately, Brian from Golden Dice, I'm sorry, I've dishonored the brand of a Savage Asajj, but I went 0-2 in my blue build of Asajj, and that is too bad. Lastly, I turned to my red build, which originally I built weeks ago, and I gave it a spin, and I lost a match against Greg, but I was excited by it because I like Villain Red. I like what Villain Red can do. And so for this build, I used Callus. He has been recently, he had been rebalanced. So he is only at 15 elite. And so now with Callus in there, or now with Savage in there, it's 29 character points. It's still pretty good health, right? You're up to 25 health again. And just to go really, really aggro, my battlefield was the Sith Temple from the Rival set. So again, remove one of your dice to deal one unblockable damage to a character. So I really leaned in on just trying to create as many opportunities to deal damage. I had 2 Bloodlusts in there, because also keep in mind that Callus also has 4 damage sides. So there you go. I had some various weapons, including Callus's bow rifle, just in case. I got that out there. Quicksilver baton. I had 2 riot shields, hoping to keep Callus alive. And I even had a Torment, trying to make money. I mean, Torment, for a while, you had to play it, but now I don't think you need to. I have 1 reoccurring nightmare. Again, I love that card. I had 1 Viper probe droid. At the time, we didn't know how it was played, but if you've been following along on Facebook, it can do a lot of work, that Viper probe droid. So I had 1. I had some Sinister Beast. I had my Conflicted, as always. I had 2 Face the Enemy. What an amazing card. I had 2 Forsaken. I had 2 Fresh Supplies. I had 2 Make Demands. Spot a Leader, which is Callus, to choose an opponent's character to deal 2 damage to it unless they give you one of their resources. So again, trying to get money. I had some probes, and I'm skipping over some things, but I had Pulverize, which Greg has used really efficiently against me in games past. And I have to say, in this particular game, I was able to I was going to say resolve, all right, but I was able to use Pulverize. I played Pulverize to finish the game off, or at least to really put Greg on the ropes. And so I managed to win the closing match of the night with Callus and Savage. And I liked the aggro nature of this because it fits in with what Savage does inherently, right? Savage rolls out, he has to roll out. And then with the other red cards you have, the ability in Callus to be able to flip his die, it was super fun. So I enjoyed this one probably the most. It's, with the riot shields, you can prolong the game a little bit, but, just the ability to probe and face the enemy and probe droids and pulverize, it can come at you from all kinds of ways, unlike the yellow and unlike the blue. The other thing about the yellow is it can make money and it has the most health, but once Savage goes down, then I have like a single die Marauder, and it's just really, really hard to get anything going when you're down to like a single die character, right? It's really tough. So that was my grand experiment with Destiny and Neapolitan. And so, you have thoughts? What do you think? What if let's stick with Savage Opress for the time being? But what would you do if you had to make? And the rules are basically like choose a color to pair him with and stay within that color. So yellow, red, blue. That's who I chose. Who would you choose? Would you do it different? I'm interested. I really do enjoy playing Savage. I love the aggroness of him. So I think so. Greg was inspired. He created his own Neapolitan, which we're going to save for another show. And I don't want to spoil any of that. But I will say that his decks perform much better than mine. So that's exciting. We will talk about that at another show. So there we have it. If you've made it this far, hopefully you didn't skip ahead. I appreciate you listening to my discussion on recent events. Just to rehash Black Lives Matter, please do what you can to actively combat racism in your communities, within your circle of friends or whoever. But please be a force for change, be a force for good. And I know I would certainly appreciate that as well. This is Jank It Up Fuzzball, and we do not end before we crack a pack. So I have here a Covert Missions pack, and let's see what we got. It is a blue die, so that's exciting, and it appears to be a character die. It is Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Exile. He has 9 health. He is a character Jedi Spectre, and his die reads 1 melee, 2 melee, 1 discard, 1 shield, 1 resource, and a blank. He is 9 for single die or 12 for elite. He has a lot of text, so get comfy. This character's point value is decreased by 1 if your team has another Spectre. So if you haven't seen Rebels for any reason, please watch Rebels. It's an excellent Star Wars, I feel, product. It's a wonderful series, and it has some of the best Maul you'll want to see for sure. There's my Maul plug. After you activate this character, you may choose a symbol and a die. Then an opponent turns that die to a side not showing the chosen symbol. So a lot of stuff. After you activate this character, you may choose a symbol and a die. Then an opponent turns that die to a side not showing the chosen symbol. So I'm assuming you might use that for defense, but I suppose there are ways you could use it for offense. Who knows? Who knows? So that's pretty good. That's Kanan Jarrus Jedi Exile. My uncommon for this pack is Repurposing. It is a 0-cost yellow neutral support. Action. Exhaust the support and set aside an equipment or weapon from an opponent's discard pile to play an equipment or weapon from your hand, decreasing its cost by 1. Let's read that again. Action. Exhaust the support. So it stays, this is a support, it stays in play. Exhaust it to set aside an equipment or a weapon from an opponent's discard pile. And then you can play an equipment or weapon from your own hand, decreasing its cost by 1. I like this. This is my kind of card. I've got to figure out a way to use that. So, okay, that's nice. I can work with that. Let's look at the comments. The first one is Trap the Blade. It is a 1-cost blue villain event. Remove a die showing melee damage. Okay. If it is an upgrade die, you may spot a blue character and spend 1 resource to discard its matching card from play. That's pretty fascinating, right? So imagine that. Remove a die showing melee damage. Got it. If it's an upgrade die, so if someone has a saber or a sword or a dagger out there, I can spot a blue character, spend 1 resource, and then I can discard that card from play. That's pretty cool. I don't think I fully appreciated what this card did. So that is also interesting. Ooh, next up is a card I do like. Improvised Explosive. 1-cost yellow support equipment that is neutral. This support enters play with 2 resources on it. After the action phase begins, remove 1 resource from the support. Then, if no resources are on it, discard it to deal 3 indirect damage to a player. I love this card, and I want to use it. Greg has gotten to use it first. we had a series where we played decks that were thematic to the first 3 episodes 4, 5, and 6, let me say. And he had a revision to his Ewok deck that also had these cards in it, and he had 2 of these out, and it sucked for me, I have to say. I think he popped them both at the same time, and so I had to take 6 indirect right after the action phase began. So not cool, but I'm happy to have this card. And lastly, it is Utini. It is a gray 1-cost event. Spot up to 4 Jawa characters to discard that many cards from the top of a deck. Utini. So there you go. If you're building that crazy Jawa deck, this has to go in there. Who knows? I'm sure people have played Jawas versus Ewoks at some point. That's got to have happened. So to recap this pack, which I'm really happy with, we have Kanan Jarrus Jedi Exile. We have Repurposing. That is a yellow support. That is the uncommon. Then we have Trap the Blade, Improvised Explosive, and Utini. There we have it. That's another pack that goes onto our website. We can talk about all the great things we have and the one single legendary that we've pulled over 33 episodes worth of packs. So we're trying, people. We're really trying. Okay, that will do it for this episode of Jank It Up Fuzzball. Like I said, it's a little different. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the support. Black Lives Matter. We will talk to you soon.